Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse Revitalized. I know the title is a mouthful, but this is my remake of the ultimate classic, one of the best NES games that ever came out, one of my personal favorite NES games that ever came out, and I had to remake it, and I'm going to tell you all about it. Now, normally I take games that were really, really bad and I remake them into games that are better. I don't want to say really, really good, but I mean, that's a matter of opinion. I think they're much better than the originals. So a lot of people said that, Ed, why did you take Castlevania and change it? It was already pretty good as it was. And I agree with you. But because I am a fan of that one, it's one of my favorites. It's not without its faults, it's not without its flaws, and I had to do something with it. I wanted to make the definitive best version of Castlevania 3 that could ever exist, and I believe I've succeeded. So the number one thing that I wanted to switch in the game right away was literally the character switch. Now in the original game, when you push the button to switch your character, you could only switch between Trevor Belmont and another character that you would choose. You couldn't pick all of the characters. And also it would pause the gameplay for a while until your character got switched. And so it was a little bit tedious, and like I said before, one of the biggest flaws in games is that you should never ever have to pause the gameplay all the time in order to do something that's so common. So to fix that, to remedy it, what I did was I made the switching a lot quicker. I made it on better buttons, so it's on the R button and the L button, not the triggers, the actual buttons, and that switches back and forth between characters. And now you can play all 4 characters at the same time, so you can switch between all of them anytime you want after you rescue them or meet them at the beginning of the game. All of the weapons, all of the original weapons are in, including some new ones. I made Sypha's weapons a little bit better, her magic spells. Most of them have been changed. I added a new one. There's some lightning magic she gets where these lightning zapper balls spin around her and it slowly drains your hearts away, and it will kill projectiles and kill other enemies when they run into the lightning balls. And also what I did was I added upgrades for Trevor's weapons that are secret rooms, and there's tons of secrets in this game all over the place. I urge tons of exploration. You need to hit walls all over the place and look for secret blocks that you can destroy, leading to rooms and other types of secret treasure, and you will find these upgrades for his main weapons that will make, his sub-weapons into more powerful versions of those weapons. And it's kind of cool, like when you get the holy water, if you get the upgrade for that, and the holy water does a bigger explosion of fire and it travels a little bit farther. Or the dagger upgrade, he'll throw 3 daggers like he does in Rondo instead of just throwing the 1, etc., etc. The boomerang's bigger and can hit more enemies, and it's a really cool extra add to the game. Now, I took out the actual weapon, the main weapon upgrades. Remember, you used to grab that in the original one. It didn't make much sense to me because you would start off with the whip, or if you were Alucard, I think is the only 2 characters that could upgrade their weapons. You would just get those upgrades right away. They'd be like in the first and second candle that you would hit even after you died. Is weird programming in with it, so you would almost get your weapons almost upgraded immediately. So I said, why not just give them the main weapons to begin with and forget that whole shtick of trying to upgrade your main weapon all the time, because you practically just do it right away anyway. So I just made it so Alucard does shoot his 3 fireballs right away, and that Trevor Belmont will always have his extended Morningstar weapon at all times. Now, there's other cool things in the game too. Of course, you got your 1-ups and you've got your pork chops that you can get. But what I did was I made it so the food, the life that you get in the game from the food, changes depending on what character you are. It's a cool little Easter egg in it. So if you're Sypha, you get this piece of cake. If you're Alucard, you get this wine glass full of blood. And I don't know, it's just all these little cool little Easter eggs that I put in the game. It really adds to it a lot. Now, another thing that I changed was when you passed certain stages, you, especially at the beginning, you could choose different paths that you wanted to go. It was not really a path choice. You had one path or you had another path that you could go down. So it sort of contributed to the replay value a little bit. But what I did was I took that out of the game because I wanted people to play all the stages. But you don't have to go through all the stages the same way. This is where I put the different branching paths in because they're actually on the level themselves. So that also induces replay value because you can choose to go this way, or you can choose to go that way, or you can choose to go that way through a lot of the stages. So some ways you may find easier than others, or some ways may be based on what character you're like. Specific areas might be like, oh, I can't jump that far, so I have to use Alucard and transform into a bat and use him for this. Or I have to use Grant because Grant can jump higher, and Grant also, I added a double jump to him, which is really cool. As a matter of fact, let's talk about Grant right now, the character differences, okay? Because Grant was the one I really upgraded the most. He now has a double jump. He's faster than all the other characters when he moves. He has the highest regular jump as well, and I gave him an actual pirate sword instead of that little teeny dagger that he had before. And I also changed his weapons. I made his weapons so that the axe that he actually gets now is sort of like the boomerang, except that it doesn't come back. So he throws this battle axe out and it will go through all of the enemies. He also has these pirate bombs because how can you be a pirate and not actually have, the actual bombs or, those lit grenades that they have, like even in the movies? I had to put that in as well. And then his dagger is also not the same as Trevor's anymore. He throws 2 daggers that go diagonal up. That's great for hitting bats and other flying enemies that are above you. So I took out the climb, him clinging onto walls and climbing, because A, it was really hard to program that in, and B, even if I did get it right, I didn't much like it. I don't know. I didn't like it in the original one, and I thought that Grant would just be a better character overall if he didn't climb, but he had all these other cool upgrades that just made you want to play him. He also shoots his weapon the fastest as well. So it's just he's one of my favorite characters now to actually play, where in the original game, I think he was probably the least favorite character. Man, so much to talk about with this game. Of course, all the graphics are upgraded. They're still 8-bit, but the whole game is 60 frames a second. Full widescreen. I've got a way better HUD, a heads-up display that looks a lot better. Your life bar is bigger. The boss's life bar is bigger. There's tons of different enemies in the game. Some you recognize from original Castlevania, some you'll recognize from Rondo of Blood or even Super Castlevania 4. I tried to just pump this game full of stuff. It's longer, it's got more stages in it. There's bosses, there's mid bosses, there's mini bosses, and there's even a boss rush mode. Yes, so in the title screen, not only can you pick what music you want, which is another cool thing, because I put in the original Famicom sound chip music, and I put in the original NES music, and you can select which one that you want right at the beginning to play throughout the game. And then the boss rush mode, where you can actually just fight through all of the bosses, and there's a timer at the top of the screen, so you can try to get your best time, and you can try to beat my time or anybody else's time. There's a leaderboard thing at the end, and you can try to beat their times if you can. And there's so much that I added to this. There's parallaxing backgrounds and great foreground graphics on certain stages. It really is the best game I've ever created. Now, I don't want to spoil anything for you if you haven't played the game yet. Of course, you can get it on my website at retrovideogames.store. Really urge you to get it, especially if you're a Castlevania fan, or if you're a retro fan, or if you actually like Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. You are gonna love this game, okay? And also, there's replay value too, in terms of when you end the game, it's gonna give you some secret codes that you can do on the church part at the beginning. So there's a cutscene in Castlevania 3, in mine, and in the original NES one, where it actually shows Trevor and he's like praying at the beginning before the game starts. I have multiple codes that you can put in there that will also give you some cool things that I don't want to talk about to spoil it, that will make you want to play through the game again and again and again. It's really good, guys. This is my ultimate that I have made, my magnum opus, if you want to call it that, So that's it for Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse Revitalized, one of the greatest games that I ever created. And if you did like it, give me a thumbs up. You know, if you played it, type in the comments down below everything about it. Did you play it? Did you like it? What maybe you didn't like? Anything, it doesn't matter, just type it in. And if you want to see another cool retro video game that I remade, click over here. And if you want to subscribe to see more content, click over here, or else Dracula will suck you.